Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington. So before we dive into today's episode, which is going all in on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, recapping and reviewing part 1 of the reunion, and then also adding in a couple of other stories that are pertaining to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Andy Cohen, and more. So welcome, everybody. As you come in, say hi, drop your candy canes. Where are you listening from? What are your thoughts and all of that? But before we jump in, you guys asked, so I answered. We now have our conspiracy theory t-shirts. So I got a lot of requests for this. All you have to do is click the pinned link at the top or go to candywashington.com/shop and you can grab a conspiracy t-shirt. It says conspiracy, never coincidence. We have it in black, white, gray, and navy. So yay. All right. So with that, you guys, let's dive right on in. So overall, for the reunion part 1, I thought it was pretty good. You know, it was a cute episode. Obviously, it's gearing up for, in my opinion, part 3 is going to be when we get the good juice. Now we're just kind of doing the fluff stuff that happened in the season, the primer stuff, so that they can eke it out for 3 parts. So there's that. So we'll bake in some other stuff into it. Andy, to me, looked pissed and uncomfortable and angry at Monica. So I don't think that production knew. He also reiterated this when he was on the Today Show. I have a clip of it, so we can watch that clip before we dive in, because I think it gives context to the season. And especially since we're doing the reunion, thinking about whether or not production knew Monica was Relay Von Tease is a big question that needs to be answered. So I have the clip of what Andy Cohen said, so I'll watch that. But to me, his energy, he seemed very put off by her, almost uncomfortable around her. And I don't think he would have that energy if him and production knew who she was prior to it being exposed. It was a different type, almost like he was almost like put off by her, if that makes sense. And that to me is a different type of energy if they actually knew going in. To me, the whole is Jinshaw innocent or not conversation at the top of the reunion, to me, that was unnecessary. Like, that was unnecessary. Jinshaw, over a year ago, she pled guilty. The chick is in prison. Like, let her be. Let her be in prison, writing her prison plays, hanging out with, Elizabeth Holmes, the other fraudster. Like, let Jen live. Everybody likes to bash Jen and talk about her. Trust me, I'm not defending why she's in prison. That's horrible, and she's where she deserves to be. However, they need to stop milking it if they want to claim that it's not the Jen Shah show. Like, you had a whole season without Jen Shah. Why are you spending the top act, the first 15 minutes, act 1 of the reunion, talking about whether or not we thought Jen Shah was guilty? That conversation was for a year and a half ago, not today. She's in prison. Duh. That's kind of how I felt about that. Now, some of our candy cane conspiracies were confirmed part 1 of this reunion. And I mean, obviously everything is alleged, entertainment only, opinion based. But I do think it's really funny how what we said last week literally got, quote, confirmed, again, allegedly confirmed, with the audio and everything that Heather brought. And I have the receipts. I have the time-stamped receipts to prove it. So we're going to get into it. So with that, let's go. All right, now let's get into the Monica of it all. Now, Monica's still harping about Lisa's $60K ring. It's annoying. Like, again, that whole segment dragged out way too long. We didn't need more than 2 minutes of the conversation about Lisa's ring. What the gag was is I thought Monica protests too much. Like you guys, like I've always said, in my opinion, I do think Monica took Lisa's ring. She had too many stories about it. She had too many... Like, she was defending herself too much. It was like, thou dost protest too much. Like, it was too much. I do think when she went in there, I think she found the ring. I think she pocketed it. And then later on, I think she pawned it for the parts, for like the diamond parts. That's what I think happened in my personal opinion. Again, I'm not saying this is the truth or the fact. This is just what I think in my head. So I want to know what you guys think. Put it down below. Do you think Monica really stole Lisa's ring? I do. She just looked guilty as hell. Her whole body image was just guilty, guilty, guilty. Now, another one of Monica's lies. She said when she met Jen Shah, she didn't know she was on the show, right? But then right before that, she says to Andy Cohen that they had already filmed season 1 when she became friends with Jen. So which is it? Had they already filmed season 1? And so literally everybody in Salt Lake City and their mother knew Jen Shah was on the show, and that's when you targeted her to become her assistant? Or did you just miraculously come across some woman who you asked to be their assistant, and then all of a sudden you figured out they were on an international television show called The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, filming in your city in Utah? Like, you just talked out of both sides of your mouth. And you guys, I have the clip. We'll play it in a little bit. So you're going to hear it from the horse's mouth. She literally contradicts herself, okay? Her second lie about the casting email being exposed. I have the screenshot of that, so we'll see it. But again, it's like, girl, you're lying about things that are easily provable. And this is another reason why I don't think casting knew that she was reality Von Teese, because production at this point is tired of Monica. Andy is tired of Monica. If Monica sort of had this golden ticket, this sort of get out of jail free card, which would be, well, production knew and they cast me and they told me not to tell. That would be her golden ticket out of all of this. But the fact that production is tired of her, they're exposing her lies, Andy Cohen cannot be bothered to even look at her or breathe in her way. And the fact that she herself has not come out and said this, to me, in my opinion, makes me believe production did not know who she was in regards to her running the Reality Von Teese account. Because at this point, it would have came out, in my opinions. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened, so we'll see. So let's look at the casting email before we move on to more stuff. So this is what Monica said, and shout out to Bravo Breaking News. Shout out, shout out, shout out. They said, Monica, I emailed casting and said your show sucks and your ratings are crap, and it's going to get canceled because you don't have the right cast. Andy, obviously looking very irritated and perplexed. And then, of course, shady cameraman, shady producers, shady casting did a screenshot of what she actually said. Reaching out in regards to your casting call. Would love more information on what needs to be done or how to move forward. You guys need a feisty, excommunicated Latina on the show immediately. I'm your girl, Monica F. Because don't forget, at this point, she was going by Monica Fowler, not Monica Garcia. And that's important. Monica F. So she's Monica Fowler, right? Because I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So be reminded of that. All right. Well, let's get into it now and I'll get to other things. So when it comes to what she said to casting, you need a feisty, excommunicated Latina. And at the time, she's Monica Fowler. And as we know, Fowler is her ex-husband's last name. So that's her married last name is Fowler. Darnell is her maiden name, which is her mother's name. Because remember, her father was not in the picture. So when we say her maiden name, it's not her father's last name as her maiden name. It's her mother's last name as her maiden name, because her mother raised her as a single mother. So she took on her mother's last name growing up, right? Which was Darnell. I don't think that's Latin, right? So where did Garcia come from? I saw on Reddit that they're saying Garcia is her father's last name. So why all of a sudden this woman has gone, at this point she's 38, 39, because I think now she's like 40, 41. And I'm not saying her age to age shame. I'm just putting it into perspective. Like, I don't care how old she is. She could be 16 or 61. It's just to put it in perspective. So this woman has gone at this point 38 years of her entire life either being Darnell or Fowler, never a Garcia. But when she thinks that owning her ethnicity and owning, that side of her is going to be beneficial to getting on the show, that sort of stereotypical feisty Latina. And shout out to the Real Housewives shout out to the real Andy of Beverly Hills. He spoke about this, much more eloquently than I am, because he's actually a part of that community and I'm not. But he was talking about how, you know, there is that stereotype of the feisty Latina that people are actually trying to push back from, and that's what she's leaning into. So then all of a sudden, she goes from Monica Fowler to Monica Garcia, because she is pitching herself to casting as the feisty Latina. But her entire life, she's never leaned into that part of her identity. Now, there's nothing wrong with leaning into parts of your identity that you've never leaned into before. That is fine. If you are mixed, biracial, whatever the case is, you knew your parents, you didn't know them, you knew that side, you don't. Everybody's situation is different and unique. Obviously, any point in time, you are allowed to want to lean into parts of your identity that maybe you did not get the chance to lean into before, of course. My issue with Monica is it seems very exploitative and performative, that the only reason why you want to now claim your Latin heritage is because you want to fit into a stereotypical checkbox to get cast on a reality show. So it's more about the intentionality behind it. And that's really what Monica's core problem has been. It's not even what Monica does. The problem with Monica has always been why she does it. That's always been her core problem, because everyone's like, everybody does this. Yeah, everybody does this and that, but everybody doesn't do it from this very fraudulent, fake, weird, conniving, manipulative place. It's the energy from which she does things that makes her so toxic and scary and dangerous. Action in and of itself is innocuous. It doesn't mean anything. It's the intentionality, the force, the energy behind the action that you do something that matters. And that's what makes Monica so weird and bizarre and scary, okay? So there's that part of it. Now, her story about Jen Shah and the feds still doesn't make any sense. It's changing this way and that way all over the place. At this point, Monica has been a proven liar. So any version of the story she tells, my assumption is it's a lie. First, it was the feds came to me and I had all this information. Then it was, no, I had a friend who was in the federal government and he told me that Jen was going to, all going to jail and all of this stuff. Then it was, no, he never said that. He just said, watch out for her. She's like, it was just all over the place. And then at the reunion, she's like, well, I turned it in and I went to them because my friend said this, which is what all of you women should have done. Like, shut up, Monica. You inserted yourself into this woman's life. So don't act like you are now some moral hero because you wanted more 15 minutes of fame to add on to what you were doing, to be like, oh, I have information about her fraud. I'm a feds person. You did all of that to have storyline. The same way you changed your last name to Garcia to check a quota or a stereotypical box to pitch yourself to casting. You didn't change your last name to Garcia because you wanted to embrace your heritage or that part of your identity. You changed your name to Garcia because you thought that you could get on the show by being a stereotypical feisty Latina. You said it yourself in your email. This isn't me making stuff up. This is what you said. And you didn't turn state's evidence to the feds because you thought that Jen Shah was this horrible person. You did it because you wanted storyline. You wanted ammunition. You wanted relevancy to bring to the producers to get you on the show. And again, that's what I mean by Monica's problem isn't what she does, it's why she does it. Because turning state's evidence against someone who's defrauding the elderly in and of itself is honorable. And she was right. Everyone should do that. If you know somebody who is defrauding the elderly people out of their life savings, out of their retirement funds, hell yeah, you need to turn them in if you are able to do it and stay safe. 100%. But she wasn't doing it because she felt bad for the elderly. She allegedly did it, if she even did it, because at this point, I don't know what is real with her or not. She did it for storyline. And that's why Monica is such a snake, because she will say what she does, and she says it in a way like, I'm this amazing person, and I'm so self-sacrificing, but the entire time, you're doing it out of selfish, evil gain. That's what makes her so weird and so bizarre. You know what I'm saying? 1 second, you guys. Okay. All right, here we go. So this is the thing. When it comes to Monica getting called out for the $60K in child support and exposed for her baby blanket business scheme, finally people are showing up. I'm looking at you, Andy Cohen, and you're doing your job. You're picking apart the pieces that's going on in social media that we're talking about. You know, he was like, oh, you're getting over $6K in child support. That should be good. And she's like, oh, well, I don't know. Monica, I thought you were destitute. You know, I thought that you were destitute. I thought all this stuff. I thought that, you know, your ex-husband abandoned you guys and you were this single mother. No, because the reason why, and we'll get into it in a little bit when she talks about helping out Kim Kardashian, or not Kim Kardashian, helping out Jen Shah. The reason why she was able to do that unpaid and for free while having, how many children does Monica have? 3 or 4? While having 3 or 4 children, is because her husband was supporting her and her family financially. Because a truly single mom who has no support literally would not be able to take on an unpaid internship to try to get on a reality TV show while having mouths to feed at home. Thank you, Nataski, for children. Thank you, right? So again, her whole storyline and her whole life has been a lie. She came on acting like she was I'm so less than, I'm so beneath you guys, you know, I'm a single mom and all this stuff. No, you were able to take a free internship at Jen Shah's Shaw Squad because your husband was financially supporting your family. Now, let me be clear. I think that's correct. I think that, you know, a father or a husband should financially support his family. I'm not knocking that aspect of it by any means. That's normal, healthy. You should support your wife and your children. Like, of course. But what I'm saying is her whole storyline about being this broke single mom isn't adding up. Because don't forget, it came out like that her whole sleeping with a brother-in-law thing happened over a decade ago. And that goes into the other candy cane conspiracy we had where I was like, yeah, of course she's talking about sleeping with her brother-in-law. It happened 10 years ago. Some of the kids weren't even born then when it happened. The other kids have gotten over it, like she said. The family has moved on. You know, the brother-in-law and her ex-husband's sister got divorced. He's remarried and he's moved on. So of course she's going to come to the show with this salacious things about herself that no longer actually have any juice in her life. It doesn't actually affect her anymore. But she's going to come on and say it because that's how she's going to disarm everybody and manipulate everybody to act like she's being so transparent and to act like she's being, you know, so above board and, you know, oh my gosh, this girl is telling me everything about her life, all her deep, dark secrets. She must be an open book. She must be trustworthy, right? So there's that. There is that. Now, one other thing about Monica I want to say is, well, there's a lot more we're going to say about her, but she needs to relax on her anger and her vitriol towards Heather, Lisa, and Angie. The way she speaks to these women is like these women did something to her. Like her level of vitriol is psychotic. Do you know what I mean? Like the way she just comes at Angie and comes at Lisa and comes at Heather. It's like, what did these women do to you? Because the truth is, Monica, you've done things to them. You've lied to these women. You've infiltrated yourself in their lives. The things you did to Angie, talking about her husband and his sexuality and their finances and everything else. What you did to Angie was horrible. Angie literally just took you in as a friend, took your side in like 99% of the issues you were having, believed you blindly. Like, why are you so mad at her? I have my theory on why Monica is so mad at Angie. Obviously, Lisa, it's just jealousy. Heather, I think she's jealous of Heather too. I actually think she's jealous of all of them, but I think particularly Heather because she thinks that she's cooler than Heather and she doesn't understand why Heather is like such a fan favorite. And then obviously Lisa, she's jealous of her. I think she's indifferent to Meredith and I think she's indifferent to Whitney. But I think she's definitely jealous of the other two. But I break down why I think she's really pissed at Angie. Because don't forget, Monica's mom said herself in a leaked audio, I know you have beef with her. And the her she was referring to was Angie. And I'm going to tell you why I think she has beef with her. Okay. Now, let's see. We went to that slide. Okay. So before we dive into the core lie of that Monica did that got debunked, let's watch the Andy Cohen clip from the Today Show where he basically says production didn't know. And then we'll dive into her core lie debunked and all of that stuff. Okay.
You know, we've been breaking the fourth wall on Housewives more and more over the years. Sometimes it's unavoidable. And I think with this story, it's just, it's so wild. And the production team did such a great job of making the finale into kind of an episode of The Sixth Sense. And the layers and the passion and the upset was very real, and it was brilliantly produced. The biggest question is, when did production find out? And the answer is, in down south on that trip is when everyone found this out.
And that is what I said, and I believe it. I think that production found out when Heather got the confirmation phone call. I think Heather knew before production did. I don't think Heather went to production with her suspicions. I think Heather did her own little sleuthing. She reached out to Tanisha. Tanisha gave her the receipts. Then Heather reached out to like Meta, who owns Facebook and Instagram, to get information about the accounts. And then she also had reached out to her business partner. I think her name is Bree, I want to say, at Beauty Lab, to confirm that the Monica Fowler who owed them $2,000 was the same Monica Garcia on the show. And then once Heather got the confirmation from Meta and got the confirmation from Bree, that's when Heather told production, and this all went down in Bermuda. That's why that is where the show ends. Because out of the history of all Real Housewives, we have never had a finale end at a cast trip, ever. I think if production knew, they would have planned better, and we would have had more episodes post that. Do you see what I'm saying? We've never in Housewives history ever had a finale end at the cast trip. So maybe I'm naive. Do I think production can be shady? Yes. Do I think production knows stuff? Yes. Do I think production at times helps to orchestrate storylines? Do they have producer plans? 100%. But I think with this particular thing, it doesn't feel like they knew she was Reality Von Teese. And that's just what I think. But I want to know what you guys think. You know, put it down below. Let me know what you guys think, because people are 50-50 on it. So let me know what you guys think, okay? Okay, now let's move into Monica's biggest lie debunked, okay? And we got the receipts. So she claimed that she and Jen Shah were, quote, friends and did things for her because she, quote, needed help. First and foremost, Monica, Jen Shah did not need your help, okay? Like, lover or hater, Jen Shah, for whatever it is, did not need Monica, Darnell, Fowler, Garcia's help with a damn thing. You sought her out. We saw the leaked receipts of you stalking her. You said yourself in the leaked audio, you know, that you got in with her. So if she needed your help, why were you seeking her out? Doesn't make any sense. Jen Shah was already on the show. Jen Shah was already making all of this money doing her own personal schemes and scams. You know what I'm saying? She was out here scheming and scamming. She had her little coin. She's on the show. She's dipping it and doing it. You know, Jen Shah was living Jen Shah's life. You wanted Jen Shah's life. So how exactly are you able to help her? Then you said you were doing, quote, friendship duties, including getting her groceries and making sure she's on time at her meetings. That sounds like an assistant to me, not a friend. My friend doesn't make sure that I get groceries and that I'm on time for my meetings. That is something an assistant does for their boss. It's called a PA. It's called a personal assistant. Personal assistants, they'll get your medicine, they'll help you with your childcare, they help you with the laundry, they'll even help you with cooking and cleaning, they'll help you with the groceries, they make sure you get onto your meetings on time. That is called an assistant. That is not called a friend. Girl, bye. You make 0 sense. Like we literally see you coming up with the lies in your mouth, but they're not, the math isn't mathing. That's not a friend. That is an assistant. Quiet as it's kept, that's actually an unpaid intern. Because you admit it yourself, you weren't getting paid. And chef's kiss to Andy Cohen, or the people in his ear, for being like, so were you getting paid? And she was like, no. And this to me was flawless. I have my issues with Andy and how he sometimes hosts, but I'm going to give him chef's kiss for this because I give credit when credit is due. And he was like, oh, so you took time away from your children to work for free? Boom. No. How Monica was pretending like she was some single destitute mother. What single destitute mother would take time away from her children to work for someone for free? Because this person who has made millions of dollars, however she made it, living in these immaculate rentals, designer stuff, all this stuff, because this is the person who needs your help, that makes 0 sense. And you were never friends with Jen Shah. Tanisha already told it. And the other people already told it. Not Kiowa, because Kiowa's the designer, but the other some of the other assistants came out and told it. Jen didn't even know your name when you showed up at some TikTok video or some Instagram video, the WAP video, whatever it was that you guys were like remaking with her. She didn't even know what your name was. But you were DMing her and you were stalking her as a fan, and then you showed up, and then you admit it yourself. You asked her if you could help her. That is you seeking her out. That you offered to help her until she got a new assistant. I don't know about you, but if I am not making any money, I have 4 children to feed, I'm not going to ask someone who has millions of dollars, can I help you for free while you find a new assistant to pay? That makes 0 sense. What does make sense is this. Monica was married to her husband, Mike, whether they were estranged or you do you, I do me, whatever. She was married to her husband, Mike. She had 4 kids. She's living in a almost $500,000 home. I think it's like $420K or something that. Round up, $500,000 home. She has 4 children. She's married to Michael. Michael is making money. He's supporting the entire family as he should. I'm not knocking that, as he should. And so basically, Monica was a stay-at-home wife. She was a stay-at-home mom. She was a housewife. Like a lot of housewives do. She started her little baby blanket on the side, selling it on Etsy or whatever site she's selling it on, maybe on TikTok or Instagram. Like a lot of housewives, they have their little, their little Etsy shops and whatever. Monica was a stay-at-home wife. She was a housewife. Her husband made the money. She had the 4 kids, and she lived in a nice home. I've seen people knocking her house on Instagram and stuff. Oh, 300 square foot. I'm not doing that. I personally don't like shaming people for stuff like that. That to me doesn't make any sense. I think she's living in a really nice home. In my opinion, I think she has a nice home. She's a great home. She's a great home. She's living in a really nice home. She has her kids and her husband's making money, and she doesn't have a job. Just like Tanisha said, I've never seen her have a job before. I'm not knocking her side hustle of the baby blanket. I'm just saying, realistically, in the world, she didn't have a job. She was an actual housewife. That is how she was able to seek out Jen Shah and work for free, because she wanted to become famous and on the show. That's the real logical situation going on here, right? Now, she's like, oh, I was broke and my car broke down. I asked Jen for like $2,500. Number one, whether you are her friend, her assistant, or her unpaid intern, just because your car breaks down doesn't mean that she's obligated to pay you for it. It would be nice if she did it. That would be a kind gesture, but she's not obligated to do that. If I'm working for McDonald's and my car breaks down, McDonald's most likely isn't going to pay to get my car fixed. It would be great if they did. Maybe ethically and morally they should, but there would be no obligation for them to. So why are you even talking about you were doing all this stuff for Jen and your car broke down and you begged her for $2,500? It doesn't make any sense. I'm pretty sure if Heather Gay's car broke down, she wouldn't ask Andy Cohen for money to get her car fixed. Doesn't make any sense. Monica is doing what Monica does. She creates these sort of her being the victim scenarios, and then she tries to paint the other person as this horrible, mean villain. But it doesn't make any sense when you actually think about it in a rational way. You know? Even on a deeper level. Say my car broke down. It's not going to break down. I'm not manifesting that. Say it did. And I went to my mom. I was like, Mom, my car broke down. Can you give me some money? My mom is not obligated to give me money. It'd be great if she did, but she's not obligated to. What I'm saying is this. Monica has a very bizarre level of entitlement. Do you know what I mean? She has a very, very bizarre level of entitlement. That's really, really weird to me. Really, really weird. But there's that. There's that. What else? Okay, so she stalked Jen to get on the show, friendship duties, all of that. All right, now let's see. Okay, before I move on to Heather, let's talk about, where is it? Okay, so you guys. All right, let me just move on to it and then we'll talk about it. So I love it when our candy cane conspiracies get confirmed. Remember, this is entertainment, alleged opinion. So when I say confirmed, it's my opinion that it's been confirmed. And I got the receipts. So if you remember, I think it was maybe last week when we were talking about, obviously, Monica, Salt Lake City. And I said two things. I said, one, Monica has an unhealthy obsession with Kim Kardashian, just like Jen Shah. And I said, two, the real reason why she wanted to be on the show was not because she wanted, or she was doing reality Von Tease and being the assistant and all that stuff, wasn't because she wanted to expose Jen Shah out of the kindness of her heart, but it was because she was calculating and was being manipulative because she wanted to be Jen Shah and she wanted to be on the show. Remember? And if you don't remember, I got the receipts. So it's really satisfying now that People magazine, a very reputable magazine, is now stating the same exact conspiracy theory we had before. Okay? Now, I'm not going to read the whole, you know what? Let's do it. I'll read the article from People magazine and then I'm going to play the videos, okay? Because I came with the receipts. Andy Cohen, wait, that's not the right one. Okay, here it is. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Monica Garcia compares herself to Kim Kardashian, says the show sucked before she joined. Okay. Monica Garcia allegedly had big plans that would thrust her into reality TV royalty, and they involved Jen Shah. On Tuesday's first installment of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City Season 4 reunion, the single mom, 40, she's not single, she's a co-parent, but whatever, compared herself to the likes of Kim Kardashian while describing her role as Jen's former assistant and her eventual casting on the show. When asked to give a little insight into her relationship with Jen, Monica revealed that she and the imprisoned reality star were once close before their friendship evolved to employer, and eventually to mortal enemies. Explaining that Jen would often need help with her life, Monica recalled doing things like getting her groceries or making sure she was on time to her freaking meetings for whatever. Now, looking back and knowing everything, I'm like, okay, I get it. I almost felt like I was more than just a friend, the things I would do for her, she explained, before sharing why she took on a job that didn't pay. Honestly, she was my friend. She needed help. It didn't start like that. We were friends first, and I was like, I can help you until you need somebody. Heather Gay then confronted her about ulterior motives and allegedly having a Kim K started out as an assistant and look where it got her. And I'll start out as an assistant and see where it gets me moment, which Monica denied. Don't worry, I have the clip. We're going to listen to it. I would like you to hear something, Monica, that you said, just for a little bit of clarity, Heather retorted before playing a recording of a voice that sounded similar to Monica's. Effing Kim Kardashian was an effing assistant, and look at that be now, Monica allegedly said on Heather's phone. I can fully admit that the whole reason why I was an assistant and putting up with that crap was as a stepping stone and as a learning experience. Monica didn't deny Heather's accusations, but admitted she tried getting cast on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, not thinking she would ever end up on the show. Girl, bye. The Bad Mormon, a memoir author, doubled down on her claims and speculated that Monica was never a friend helping Jen, but had an agenda. Heather is spot on 100%. Monica was never a friend helping Jen. She always had an agenda. I didn't, Monica refuted. When I met her, I didn't even know she was on the show. Honestly, when I applied to get on the show, I applied just like everybody else sitting here. We already debunked that. That's a lie. As you'll also hear in the clip, of course, Monica knew Jen Shah was on the show. She said she started being her, quote, friend and working for her after season 1 filmed. So if you're working for her after season 1, then you know she's on the show. So stop lying. Monica explained she emailed casting with a message. I said, my name is Monica Fowler and your show sucks and your ratings are crap and it's going to get you canceled because you don't have the right cast. That's what I said. I'm being honest. She shrugged before showing the actual email she sent to casting. Quote, reaching out in regards to your casting call, it read, would love more information on what needs to be done or how to move forward. You guys need a feisty, excommunicated Latina on the show immediately. I'm your girl, Monica F. Now, this was in a People magazine, so thank you very much. Now, let's go back to... No, we don't have to go back, but let's go to what I said last week. It was in the last week or the week before that. I did a whole deep dive on why Kim Kardashian should be worried. I said both Jen Shah and Monica have an unhealthy obsession with her. Jen wanted Kim to represent her during her trial before pleading guilty. Jen wanted Kim to play her in a movie about Jen's life, her bioepic. Monica referred to Kris Jenner talking about her children's sex life as a model for parenting. Monica cosplayed as Kris Jenner while hanging out with Jen. And then both of them were physically morphing into her with their looks and plastic surgery. So I said this about a couple weeks ago, and I love how it's coming out now. But let's listen to what Monica said herself during that. Wait, we'll do it after this. And then a part of that clip, we'll watch both. A part of that clip was also when I had my conspiracy theory about her claim that she wanted, her and the other reality Bontes bloggers wanted to expose Jen out of the kindness of their hearts. And she's such a mean employer. And I was like, that makes no sense at all. They were doing it because they wanted to be famous. They were doing it because they wanted money and they wanted fame. They wanted on the show. They were doing it for self, not because they wanted to help other people. And Jen Shah was this horrible person. Now, to be clear, there is nothing wrong with wanting to be famous. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be on a reality television show. There is nothing wrong with wanting to have money. There is nothing wrong with wanting to have a certain lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. But like I said, it's never about the action or the wanting. It's the energy behind what you do. So lying and saying you have this moral high ground and you want to expose someone, and that's why you did this really messed up thing, creating these fake burner accounts to basically troll people. That's the problem. If you want to be famous, then apply, go to acting school, apply to casting calls, start your own YouTube, but maybe like as your own self, look at Heather McDonald. You know what I mean? Heather McDonald is a comedian. She's an actress. She's a writer. And she talks all about pop culture and Bravo. And she shows her face and she's amazing. And look at her. She's extremely successful. So she didn't have to do it this way. That's the whole thing. It's not about wanting to be famous. It's not about any of that. It's how and why she did it. That's what the core problem is. That's the core issue. But let's watch some of this stuff now, okay? So let's first watch just a snippet of my conspiracy theory from last week or the week before, because I like to have the receipts, and then we'll listen to what Monica said at the reunion. Let's do it that way. Okay, here we go. This is why Kim Kardashian should be worried. Just super quick. Both Jen and Monica have an unhealthy obsession with her. Number one, Jen wanted Kim to represent her during her trial before pleading guilty. I mean, literally wanted Kim Kardashian to be on her legal team. Now she wants Kim to play her in her bioepic. You know, if there's a Lifetime movie about Jen's life, she wants Kim to play it. Girl, bye. Monica also referred to Kris Jenner talking about her children's sex life as a model for parenting. Remember? Not this last episode, but the episode before that, or maybe the one before that when they're all on the bus, and she asked Heather if her daughter was having sex, and Heather was like, excuse me? That's a boundary that I'm not going to cross. I'm not going to talk about my daughter's sex life, particularly on camera, and also not with you. And she was like, Kim Kardashian or Kris Jenner does it all the time. Seems like it worked out. I also found a clip, and you know I got it, so we can watch it, of Monica cosplaying Kris Jenner while hanging out with Jen. I mean, it's bizarre. And then as you can see, physically morphing into her with their looks and plastic surgery. Particularly Monica now, because she's like rail thin. And we'll get into that, whether she's taking Ozempic or what the deal is. But it's really psycho. But let's watch her cosplaying Kris Jenner.
I wanted to get you guys on here because my mother came in here and I'm like, what the hell is she saying Kimberly for?
Kimberly, let's go. Ariana Grande asked me to be in her newest video.
Yeah, pretty sure she didn't.
Oh, you are so... Don't be fucking rude.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That doesn't look like a horrible boss to me. That looks like someone who's having fun and kikiing with their boss, trying to cosplay as the Kardashians. I mean, it's just psycho. And what I mean, and I'm serious, Kim should watch out because Monica is unhinged. What she's done isn't funny. It's not a moment. It would be funny in a moment if it was actually scripted and everybody was in on it. And it was like a scripted TV show. Like if this was actually Gossip Girl or actually Pretty Little Liars, sure. But not when you're playing with real people's lives. Not when you're doing drive-bys of people's houses. I'm sorry, but if someone I don't know is driving by my house and then they lie to me to infiltrate to be a part of my life, restraining order. Restraining order. It's psycho. Absolutely psycho. Ugh. All right, let's get back to talking about the rest of the episode. So Tanisha exposed Monica. We talked all about that. What else? Yep. So, oh no, here, we were there. So, yep, I called it about two weeks ago. But now let's listen to what Monica said on part 1 of the reunion, which confirms this conspiracy theory that we had a couple weeks ago.
Learned early on about your connection with Jen Shah. Were you two close friends, or how would you describe your relationship?
I would describe it as we were friends first, and then I was working for her, and then enemies, I guess.
So what did you specifically do for her? What was your job description?
She needed help at the time with, honestly, her life. Like, now, looking back and knowing everything, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, I almost felt like I was just more of a friend. Like, the stuff I would do for her, like, I would go and get her groceries. I would make sure that she was on time to her freaking meetings and whatever.
Was she filming the show at this point?
I think you guys filmed season 1.
Okay. Was she paying you?
No.
So you were taking time away from your kids for a job that didn't pay?
Yeah.
Why were you doing it?
Why?
Yeah.
Honestly, she was my friend. She needed help. It didn't start like that. We were friends first, and I was like, I can help you until you need somebody.
So you didn't have, like...
I had a husband home at the time.
And look where it got her, and I'll start out as an assistant and see where it gets me?
No.
I mean, I would like you to hear something, Monica, that you said.
I would love for you to read that, Heather.
It's just, just for a little bit of clarity.
Oh, it's an audio recording.
Fucking Kim Kardashian was a fucking assistant. And look at that bitch now.
Yeah.
I can fully admit that the whole reason why I was an assistant and putting up with that shit was as a stepping stone, as a learning experience.
So that proves what? That she was doing it to get on the show? Were you being her assistant to get on the show?
I didn't think I would ever end up on the show, honestly. But why wouldn't I try to get on the show?
I was just clarifying that I don't think you were her friend helping her. I think that you had an agenda.
Friend, Heather.
Well, you had an agenda.
I didn't. When I met her, I didn't even know she was on the show.
As this situation.
Yep. So you heard it yourself. Everything we said, she confirmed herself out of her own double-mouthed self. She said in the clip we just listened to, she had a husband at home. And when Andy asked her about, well, you left your children to not get a paying job. So like I said, she was a housewife. She had a husband who was paying all of her bills. She didn't need to have a job. That's why she could work for Jen for free. So her whole single mom lie. Lied out of her mouth, spoke double talk. 1 second she said that she didn't know who Jen was when she met her. Second, the next thing she said was they had already filmed season 1 when she started being her friend and started working for her. Which one is it? Then she said she wasn't trying to be on the show. And then she said, well, yeah, maybe. Like all over the place. And just like we said weeks ago, unhealthy obsession with Kim Kardashian. And the real reason why she got close to Jen Shah was to get on the show, not because she cared about exposing Jen. Because at the end of the day, Monica and Reality Von Tease didn't expose or take down Jen Shah. When you really think about it, they didn't. The only entity that took down Jen Shah was the federal government. Because whose prison is Jen Shah in? The federal government's prison. She's not in Monica Darnell Fowler Garcia's prison. So you didn't take down Jen Shah. And saying that Jen Shah has a temper and pops off and yells at people, well, yeah, look at season 1 through 3 on the show. Jen Shah is losing her damn mind every other episode. Screaming, cursing, throwing things. She's having a temper tantrum every other scene. So how exactly did you expose or take down Jen Shah? I'm confused and I'll wait. Exactly. You didn't. You didn't. Nobody thought Jen Shah was an angel. The reason why Jen Shah, in some people's mind, was, quote, iconic was because she was so wild and aggressive and you couldn't really, what's the word I'm looking for? Unpredictable. She was so unpredictable and so wild, right? She was the villain. We all knew that. Was anybody like, oh my God, I can't believe Jen Shah raised her voice at her assistant. What are you talking about? You really exposed her. No, we were like, okay, that tracks. And what? Like, what? What? And it's not like the federal government built their case against Jen Shah because Monica Garcia was like, by the way, she one time asked me if I wanted to open up an email account. Like, girl, bye. Like, I can't. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But anyway. All right. Now let's move on to the rest of the reunion. Okay, so Heather. I think Heather is going to get way more activated and fired up in the upcoming parts of the reunion. Again, I think part 2 might be a little bit of a filler part. But I think part 3, it's going to be the extended version. I think that's the version we're going to get the real juice in the meat. And I think that's when Heather is really going to be activated. But I loved how she brought the receipts to the show, to prove Monica's real reason and all of that. Now, I believe that Heather is getting all of the audio receipts from her hairstylist, Tanisha. But I don't think that Tanisha is the one leaking it to the press. I think that Monica is leaking some of that stuff herself. Like, I actually think Monica leaked, not the audio leaks, but I do think Monica leaked the video of her cussing her mother out. because it didn't do what she thought it was going to do. I think she leaked it because she wanted to be like, see, karma, it came back to me. I'm taking accountability. So stop coming at me because I'm taking accountability and I'm a victim too. But it didn't do what she thought it was going to do. It just really exposed her more. Some of the audio leaks, I wouldn't be surprised if Heather's camp was leaking that stuff, but I don't think Tanisha is leaking it. Like, Tanisha to me doesn't seem like, to me, I think if Tanisha was going to leak the receipts, she seems to me like the type of person who would just like throw it up on her Instagram stories. You know, I don't see her like working with Radar online. Like, she doesn't seem that type. But I do think that Heather has a PR team who would have no problem leaking that stuff. And I personally have no problem with her team leaking it either. Like, keep the leaks coming. Like, let's keep it squeaky, squeaky. Like, keep the leaks on coming. I'm not mad at it, right? Now, at the top of the show, which again, I kind of thought was a little bit boring when they were talking about Jen and all the girls, but I do think that that was a subliminal diss to Monica. I think everything the women were saying about Jen Shah, they really wanted to insert Monica's name, because Heather was like, oh, well, you know, Jen Shah was so toxic. She was so unpredictable. And, you know, we were excited that once she was gone, we could be on the show and we could share like our real lives and our real friendships, you know, without that cloud over it. And we were scared that people would get used to that type of toxicity. And then Angie's like, and we let this woman into our homes around our children. And it turns out she's this big liar. To me, I was like, they're talking about Monica, but they're just saying it's about Jen, because that's basically what Monica did. And this is a big reason why I said from day one, why Heather was the one to crack the case against Monica. Because if Monica had not followed the Jen Shah blueprint and then wild out on it, I don't think she would have been exposed, because Heather was onto her because of her antics, the way she was at the Greek dinner. And then also whatever we did not see when Heather did that whole Mormon Little House on the Prairie butter churning party, whatever the hell that was, whatever we did not see at that party too, also was a huge, huge red flag for Heather. And that's why at the end finale, Heather is like, I've seen this before. And she compares Monica's behavior to Jen's behavior. She's like, you know, where we were like, what is she going to say? Is she going to pop off? One moment she's one way, the next moment she's this way. Because just like Jen Shah, Monica was also acting and pretending. So one minute she's being normal, and the next she's like, oh, is that my cue? And then she goes and she storms it off and she goes crazy and she's yelling and she's cussing people out and she's doing this, that, and a third. And Heather was like, wait a minute. It's like that Taylor Swift song. I've seen this film before and I know how it ends. Like, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. And that is what got Heather's spidey senses up. And you know how we know this? A couple of things. Number one, it was confirmed with the leaked audio with Monica and her mom, when Monica's mom is like, the only thing you did at the Greek dinner party was unite those 4 a-holes. You were crazy. You were this, were that. So clearly that was the beginning of the end for Monica. And after the Greek dinner, you saw all the women kind of be like, Monica, like, are you okay? And Angie was like, here's a self-help book. And Heather took Monica aside and was just like, what's going on, sweetheart? And they had their whole like mother abandonment storylines. So we already knew that. But the reason why I think, this is why I think Heather ended up going to Tanisha has nothing to do with the Greek party. Well, baked in. Like, that was a factor. But I think the number one catalyst for why Heather went to Tanisha to get the scoop was whatever happened at that Mormon Little House on the Prairie butter churning party that we did not see. Something Monica did or said really set Heather off. Because after that, Heather goes to Monica, and we see this on the show, and she's like, listen, what the hell was that about? If you can't get it together, then I'm not sure we're going to do this whole Bermuda trip. I'm not sure that this Bermuda trip is a good idea. And in my mind, I thought, this doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, Lisa and Monica had some words at the butter party, you know, and they kind of popped off. But like, based on what we saw, I think it was pretty extreme for Heather then to be like, well, I think we might have to cancel this trip if you can't get it together. So just like the Greek Easter party, what didn't we see that shook these women so much about Monica? Because Tanisha told it too. Tanisha said, because she was on Josiah's World TV Media, shout out to him. He did the first exclusive with Tanisha. He did a great job, by the way. She told it that Heather came to her before the Bermuda trip. So now we're getting timelines. Now we're getting timelines, right? So the fact that something happened at the butter churning party that we did not see, that we were not privy to, that shook Heather. Heather then goes to Monica and says, listen, I don't even know if we need to do this Bermuda trip. And then before the trip, Heather privately goes to Tanisha and says, listen, are you and Monica in cahoots? Like, what is really going on? Because remember, the reason why Heather asked Tanisha if she was in cahoots with Monica, because in my opinion, Monica was always setting up Tanisha to be the fall guy if she ever got exposed. Because again, Tanisha told it, this is not me making things up. You can go watch her interview. This is what she said. That Monica was going around to the women and saying that Tanisha was saying stuff about them. So the woman would come to Tanisha and she'd be like, and she'd have to clean it up and be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And so because Monica had been doing that, and we've seen that behavior, she did it with Angie, she did it with Lisa, she did it with Meredith, you know, planting these seeds and then trying to use people as pawns and fall guys. We've seen this behavior with her. So I believe Tanisha, you know, people are creatures of habits. So that's why Heather goes to Tanisha. She doesn't say, is Monica up to something? She goes, are you and Monica up to something? Because as we know, Monica's really good at that. You know, she had Angie and Meredith at odds. She had Lisa and Meredith at odds. She did it, you know, that's what she does. And Tanisha goes, no, I'm not in cahoots with her, but I do have something I need to tell you. It's been weighing on my conscience. And that's when Tanisha breaks and tells Heather everything that happened. You know, she talks about her involvement in it. And then Heather doesn't just believe Tanisha. She's like, well, send me receipts. I need proof of this. And that's when Tanisha sends her the screenshots and the audio and the video and all of that stuff, right? So to me, that is the timeline of Heather cracking the case, if that makes sense. And I think the biggest reason why Heather's spidey senses went up was because Monica was mimicking that sort of erratic, performative, toxic behavior that Jen Shah did. But when you try to imitate someone, it never lands the way the original does it. And I'm not particularly a Jen Shah fan. I think she's where she should be. I do think she should be in prison for what she did to those people. I'm not a particular Jen Shah fan. But it was very clear that Monica, and people were even saying this, like, oh, Monica studied the Real Housewives. Monica studied Jen Shah, and that's why she's acting out, and that's why she's iconic, and she's doing all this stuff. But I'm like, who wants someone copying somebody else? You know, like, nobody wants that. But I think those two moments were the biggest moments. And the gag is, if Monica had actually listened to her mother when her mother said, you need to just chill out, she's like, the mother was like, you need to just go on, be an actress, pretend like you like these people, get as much camera time as you can, and sort of skate. I think that Monica would have had a really great season. And what I mean by great season is, I think that people would have just beloved her. I know that there's a lot of Monica stans out there. I know there's a lot of Monica, like, whatever. But what I mean is, like, I think that she would not be in the position she's in right now with everything being exposed about her. Do you know what I mean? So, woo. So yeah, so I definitely think that that Heather definitely knew way before production knew, and I think that she knew way before it was exposed and stuff. Zach says, "Girl, pioneer party, not butter." No, they were doing butter. Remember, they were shaking the butter. They made homemade butter and they were shaking it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now let's see. Let's move on to Whitney. Okay, so Whitney is always reaching, and to me, she's just annoying. And all of her scenes seem very pre-planned for storylines and screen time. And she creates issues that don't actually exist with Heather, Lisa, and Meredith just to create conflict. Because I'm less like, she can't really think that these issues are issues. Like the whole thing about her and like and Heather's book, that made no sense. The whole thing with like Lisa not coddling her at Meredith's party made no sense. The whole thing with like, oh, Meredith, you make up stuff about your life when you don't want to be confronted made no sense. I think Whitney seems very angry and sad, and I think she might need a Dorinda pause. Like, I think she needs to be put on pause, maybe gather herself, get her love and light together, maybe come back, maybe not, but I would be okay if this was Whitney's last season. She just seems very dark to me, very, very dark. Not evil or anything like that, not like Monica, but just like she seems not in a good place. And she seems to be lashing out. She's lashing out at the women. She's lashing out on Justin. Speaking of Justin, did you notice how they said Justin is a saint for being with Whitney? Now, that is a very telling statement, you know, and do we believe that Whitney and Justin are, quote, in a better place? I don't. It's just, it's too much of money problems. It's too much of a power dynamic between the two of them, where she has continuously challenged his position as the head of the household. Not that I'm like super archaic in my thinking or anything, but I do think that when you publicly emasculate or challenge a man's or your husband's, quote, position as the head of the household, that sort of really emasculates him. And I mean this in like healthy relationships. I'm not talking about unhealthy, toxic dynamics. I'm not talking about that. And she's done that multiple times. She's taking shots at their sex life. And when they were talking about like certain duties and things like that, the way she was coming out, she's like, well, now that I'm working and you're doing this and you got to do that, it's like, I don't know. There's healthy masculine, there's healthy feminine. And I'm not being like, oh, she can't ask him to help. Obviously, I'm not talking about that. But I think that anytime a spouse, whether it's a woman or a man, degrades and is very diminishes that person's position in the household, that has a consequence on their union and on their marriage. And clearly we saw that. She was saying how it was so nice not to have anybody in bed with them. And Heather was like, oh, don't say that about J-Man. Like, whoa. She was saying how they weren't having sex. All of a sudden, he's not wearing his wedding ring because it no longer, quote, fits. Well, then get a bigger wedding ring. I mean, it just seemed very like excuse to me. And now he's wearing it as a necklace around his neck, like Carrie Bradshaw did with Aiden. Like, it's just really bizarre. It's giving like excuse. It's giving like, we're really not happy, but we're putting on a brave face type situation, you know? And I think that anytime any spouse does that to the other person, particularly publicly, that's indicative of bigger problems and deeper problems. And it's always harder to fix. Always harder to fix. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know what's going on there. I personally like Justin. Whitney. Oh, and when Whitney was talking about like, oh, well, you know, I never believed Jen. And I thought she was saying, I was pretty vocal about it. Yeah, Whitney, because word on the street, you work for or have worked for the same type of schemes. Like those, what is it, multi-level marketing schemes, MLMs. Those are schemes, pyramid schemes. Like you knew exactly, you knew the code. Like you knew the code of the fraud Jen Shaw was doing on the bus. And no offense, but Whitney isn't always the brightest bulb. You see what I'm saying? And she knew the code. She was like, oh no, they do this and they do this. And this is how they target people. They get them on the loop and blah, 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 blah. I was like, Whitney, how do you know all of that? Girl. And then Justin's old company having the class action lawsuit against them for their pyramid scheme, for their pyramid marketing scheme. That's the thing. When your street isn't clean, close your mouth. That's why Jen Shaw checked her at the last reunion that Jen Shaw was at. She was like, oh, well, do you want to talk about the FCC file or not the FCC or whatever filing it was? Not to be confused with the SEC filing with Lisa's company. That's something completely different. But she was like, oh, we want to talk about the FCC filing against Justin's company? And then Whitney shut all the way up and she was like, yeah, well, what's going on with like Wild Rose? You know, the money you guys spent there, is that legit? You know, and then Whitney shut all the way up. If your street is not clean, close your mouth. I know for me, if I was scheming and frauding like these people are, I would shut up. if somebody else was getting exposed. Like on that bus, if I was Whitney, I would have been like, like, nobody look at me. Don't look over here. Leave me alone. I would not be piping up like Whitney, knowing the exact code formula for the fraud. How did you know, Whit? How did you know? You know what I'm saying? If your street is not crystal clean, close your mouth, because people are going to turn around and be like, well, what about what's going on in your house? Just like Jen did. Well, what's going on with Wild Rose? These hundreds of thousands of dollars that miraculously disappeared rebranding your skincare line. What happened to that money? You know, what happened? What Justin's company's getting sued. Let's talk about that. See, me, my mouth would have been all the way shut. I would have been like, la, 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 la. Anyway, don't look at my side of the street. Like, you got to be careful opening your mouth. So there's where I stand with Whitney. I could take her or leave her, maybe a friend of, maybe a Dorinda pause, but she's doing too much now. She's doing too much. Okay. Now, Meredith. To me, iconic moments are when people have like catchphrases and they do like stuff. So to me, when Meredith is disengaging, to me, that's iconic. I really liked Meredith this season. She was very sleepy the first quarter of the season. We didn't really see a lot of her, but what we did see of her, I liked. She was a moment. She was fun. And then the very end, like the last half of the season, she was very hyper involved because she was being triangulated between Monica and Angie/Lisa, right? So it was all about the rumors and the husbands and the DMs and all that stuff. So I was living for Meredith this season. I really liked her. I think she showed up. I think she was a vibe. I think she had some iconic moments. And I liked her. I really liked Meredith this season. I was living for her. I love how her and Lisa's friendships is rekindled. Like the way they were tag teaming Angie and the way they were tag teaming Monica at the reunion. Chef's kiss. I love them together. I love them as a duo. I love their friendship. I know they've had stuff in the past with the hot mic moment with, you know, Meredith with her Lisa rumors. I know it's not good. It's toxic. It was unhealthy, but like, let's put a pin in it. Let's forgive. Let's move on. I love that they are friends again. And I also love Meredith's use of receipts. You know, I love how she doesn't bring like, other than Monique, because again, we talk about iconic moments. What I think as an iconic moment was Monique bringing the binder at the reunion. That's an iconic moment to me. And then you see people trying to recreate that. I'm looking at you, Monica, with your dumb burn book. That was an iconic moment. So I do like that type of thing when she brought her binder. But I like how Meredith uses receipts in a very strategic way because Meredith is very, very smart. She's a lawyer and she thinks very strategically. That's why she never gets her hands dirty, ever. She never actually says anything that can come back to bite her, ever. And that's why she was running circles around Andy Cohen with the semantics. She was like, I never said anything about their marriage. She said, I knew a rumor about her husband. And to be honest with you, that is true. She never said, I know anything about Angie's marriage. She said, I know a rumor about her husband. You could know a rumor about somebody's husband that has nothing to do with their marriage. So Meredith was running circles. Andy was like, oh, but you said husband. And she was like, yes, and never said anything about their marriage. And the thing is, words like that matter. You know, what you say and how you say it matters. That's the difference between libel and slander and all of that stuff, you know? That's why we're always like, my opinion, allegedly, entertainment only, you know, conspiracy, just a theory, just my thoughts, because words matter. And Meredith knows that. That's right. So to further explain why I like her use of receipts is because when she brings them out, they're never nothing burgers. Like there's nothing more frustrating when people have all of these receipts and blowouts and, you know, poster boards and burn books, and there's like nothing there. That's the most irritating thing. She came out with some Kinko printouts, like what? But she was like, well, actually, let me tell you what I said verbatim to clarify this whole situation, because you're not about to put words in my mouth. That's what I like, because that's that slick shade. That's that high level shade where it's like, I don't have to do a whole production. I'm going to get out my Kinko's printout, and I'm going to really just, you know, set the record straight so there's no confusion about what I said. And I was like, yes, Meredith, you girl, yes. That is what is iconic to me, when people can just shade you, run circles around you just by using their words. You know, that's why I really love Meredith, because she will shade the hell out of you just by using her words, but not in like a derogatory, you're a B, you're a this, you're a that, your husband's gay, blah, not in that way, but just by like, oh, well, I heard a rumor about your husband. That's not what I said. Da-da-da. Like, I loved it. I loved it. Now, her and Seth, I've been saying this since season 2, since we found out everything that happened in season 1. I think that Meredith and Seth, and I'm not mad at it, I think a lot of relationships evolve into this space. I think that they are life partners. I think that they are now best friends. I think that they are co-parents. I don't think that within their own household, are they in a monogamous marriage? No. She said it herself, how people were saying Seth was seeing other people. I don't think she cares. I think that within their household, they have an understanding. I love you. You love me. We built this business. We built this brand. We have these kids. We'll keep that intact. Do we still want to be a monogamous man and wife type situation? No. You can do you. I can do me. We have a mutual respect, and it works for them. That is what I've been saying since half of season 1, because remember, that's why her and that was why Meredith and Jen had the huge falling out, was because Jen got, and this is why communication is so important, because a lot of these problems started from people misunderstanding situations. So let's do a history lesson from season 1. Mary and Jen Shah were beefing, remember? Because Mary said, "You smell like hospital." Stupid, I know. But Jen was doing Jen, and she was on her feelings about it. So Mary and Jen were beefing because of that. Jen and Meredith were really good friends, remember? Very good friends. Well, at least for the show's sake, they were acting like they were really good friends. Meredith and Jen was supposed to have a sleepover at Meredith's house. But all of a sudden, Brooks, her son, was in his feelings and was like, well, I don't want Jen to come over because she was showing her vajayjay the last time she was here, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And so Meredith canceled plans with Jen, not because of her beef with Mary, but because of Brooks, you know, inserting himself and wanting to spend time with Meredith and not have Jen stay over, which again to me made no sense. I just think Brooks was like reaching. I think he just wanted a moment. I think he wanted a snowflake. I think Brooks was just like reaching, and that was the catalyst for the whole Jen Shah versus Brooks social media storm, which is a whole other conversation. But let me get to the point what I was making, guys. Sorry. But this is where the communication breakdown happens. Jen Shah assumes the reason why Meredith canceled their sleepover was because Meredith was taking sides with Mary Cosby. But that was not the case. Meredith canceled the sleepover with Jen Shah because of Brooks. It wasn't personal. It had nothing to do with Mary. So Jen Shah's in her feelings and she's pissed off. And that's when Jen Shah and Whitney are doing their little dance, their pole dance routine. And because Jen Shah is pissed at Meredith, that's when she spills it and is like, yeah, well, like Meredith is in New York sleeping with all of these people and Seth is doing all of this, remember? And Jen spilled the beans that Meredith and Seth were seeing and having sex with other people and dipping it and doing all of that stuff, right? And then that's what leads up to when Jen Shah and Meredith had that huge fight where she's like, you're taking Mary Cosby's, side. She's married to her. She has sex with her grandfather. And that was the first time Meredith ever said, I'm disengaging. And she gets up and leaves. That whole situation happened because of a misunderstanding. And then that bled into the last 4 seasons of the show. So it's crazy. I don't even know how I got into that, but like, that's how that all happened. That's how that all happened. And that's what led up to Jen Shah and Brooks beefing on Twitter and social media. Then Meredith was like, oh, I'm going to get a cyber forensic guy to figure out who's behind these accounts. I think it's Jen Shah, blah, 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 all of that stuff. That's what led to Lisa and Meredith falling out. And I'll tell you why. The reason why that led to Lisa and Meredith falling out is this. When Jen Shah said, oh, Meredith is dipping it and doing it in New York. Seth is doing him. He doesn't think that's why he's always traveling everywhere. And Jen spilled the beans about them, dipping it and doing it with whoever they want to dip and do it with. Lisa was not privy to this. Lisa was with her husband. Lisa wasn't going with Jen and Meredith to New York and, to quote Lisa Barlow, sleeping with half of New York in her hot mic moment. So Meredith was very close to Lisa, but you have certain friends you do certain stuff with and certain friends you don't do stuff with. So Meredith and Lisa were very much more of that public image couple. Meredith and Seth, and then Lisa and what's Lisa's husband name? John. Lisa and John, they would go out to dinners and to galas and to events and blah, blah, blah. And it was like their couples friends, it was the couples friends. So Meredith wasn't letting Lisa in on, so by the way, girl, me and Jen go up to New York and we dip it and do it and blah, 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 blah. So Lisa didn't know. Lisa assumed that Jen was lying on Meredith and she was defending Meredith like Jen Shah's a liar. She's crazy. We love Meredith and Seth. But then when it turned out that Jen Shah was telling the truth, Lisa felt betrayed. Not because Meredith was dipping it and doing it in New York, but because Meredith did not confide in her what was going on. That was actually the beginning of the end of Lisa and Meredith, which I'm happy they're back together. And you see Lisa holds this grudge against Meredith, and Meredith doesn't 100% understand why. But I did. I saw it was clear as day. That's why she got so angry in her hot mic moment where she was like, oh, why? Because you go up to New York, and why? Because like I don't cheat on my husband and blah, 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 and you don't own your homes. That's why she was saying all of those things. Lisa was in her feelings because she was like, wait a minute, girl, I'm defending you against Jen Shah, but the whole time you were, quote, cheating on your husband, but I thought that like you were like my couple's friend. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of the issues, and then of course that led to Lisa and Meredith having their beef and the SEC filing DMs and the whole hot mic moment and blah, 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 blah. So a lot of the drama and the issues that we've seen over the last 4 years actually started from one misunderstanding, which was Jen Shah thinking that Meredith canceled a sleepover because she was taking Mary Cosby's side. Oh, thank you so much, in Dubs. It's appreciation for putting in work and linking all the storylines together. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super sticker. It really means a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yay. Oh, that's right. Thank you, in Dub. Thank you, Foxy. Thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. So yeah, that's why communication is so key, because if Jen just went to Meredith and said, well, why did you cancel our sleepover? Meredith could have then explained to her it was about Brooks, which she later finds out, but it's like a half a season later after everything has then popped off. So that's why I say never assume. Never assume you know why someone is doing something unless you get confirmation from that person. Don't just think, oh, I know why this person blew me off. I know why this person did this, because probably 99% of the time you really don't know why. So don't assume it. And then also, when somebody comes to you with some tea or some drama, or like this person said this about you, take it with a grain of salt. Don't always believe it. Do your own due diligence, because a lot of the times the person coming to you with it, that's the person with the ill intent. So be careful with the people bringing the bone to you. Think it happened in Potomac when Ashley brought the bone to Wendy about NECA. Turned out Ashley was the one who brought the whole situation up to NECA. And that popped off an entire feud between Wendy and NECA. And now people are bringing Nigeria and goddesses and shrines and into a situation that, again, didn't even have to go to the weird levels it went to. If Wendy just said, okay, Ashley, thank you for telling me, but now I'm going to go talk to NECA and see what her side of the story is. But Wendy just took Ashley's bone at face value, and then she went and activated her entire family and then got exposed for them doing shrines, allegedly. So there's that. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Foxy, for the super sticker. That is so sweet. I really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, like I know that these shows are quote reality TV shows, but to me, the most interesting part about them is that they really are sort of a case study on the human experience and interpersonal relationships. And you can actually learn a lot by looking at these situations. I've learned a lot. I've definitely learned the number one person to suspect about something is the person bringing you the bone, usually not the person they're talking about, unless, and remember, there's always like caveats to this stuff, unless this is like someone who you intrinsically can trust. And you know that they're coming to you. Like, I mean, someone that you've like been through stuff with, who you know really has your back. And they're giving you the heads up like, hey girl, listen, this is what's going on. And you can you know this person and you know they have your back and you know they're giving you the heads up. That's one thing. So use your discernment. But just some person who's like, hey, this is what's you got. You know what I'm saying? You got to watch out for that. You got to watch out for it. You really do, because that person who brings you the bone will then step back and watch you blow up your life trying to fight this other person when 9 times out of 10 that other person meant you no harm. That's why the messenger gets shot. You see what I'm saying? That's why the messenger gets shot, because they're usually bringing you some BS. Whew. Anyway. But thank you so much for the super sticker, Foxy Sweet. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Lisa. I kind of covered Lisa, but we'll do her a little bit more. So Lisa and Meredith being friends, again, it's a vibe for me. I'm here for it. I absolutely love it. Loved how she's calling Whitney out for her hypocrisy when Whitney lost her friend. Again, condolences. So I want to be sensitive to people who have lost someone. When I talk about Whitney, it's not in any disrespectful way. My heart goes out to her for losing a friend. But we have to talk about her behavior in the context of the show. I agree with Lisa. She was damned if she did, damned if she didn't. Meredith or Whitney was like, you keep asking me if I'm okay. You're giving me pressure. Why aren't you asking me if I'm okay? Why are you paying attention to Heather? And she was like, I don't know what to do, because it had nothing to do with, her friend passing and the level of support she did or did not get from Lisa. The reason why Whitney had such a problem was because she was jealous that Heather and Lisa formed their own independent friendship outside of her. She was triggered. She was pissed. She was on one. Because this is the thing. I think that, in my opinion, this is what I think Whitney did. I think Whitney made the conscious decision, and by conscious, I mean she thought literally in her own mind, making a conscious choice, I am going to align myself with Lisa Barlow. And the way I'm going to do it is by throwing Heather under the bus. I think she literally made that choice season 3. Into season 2, season 3. I think she literally made that choice. I don't think it was subconscious. I think the end of Bad Weather was because Whitney wanted to individuate herself. I think she wanted to separate herself from Heather. She didn't want to be clumped in with Heather anymore. I think she made that choice. She said it herself to everybody but Heather. She said, I'm taking a friendship break from Heather. She said that out of her own mouth. That's a conscious decision. I am stepping away from this friendship. I think she thought that she would rise higher, be cooler. I don't know, if she aligned herself with Lisa. And unfortunately, a lot of times, particularly in female friendships, and I'm not being sexist, I'm just saying this is how humans are. It just is what it is. A lot of times in female friendships, the currency is gossip. The currency of the friendship is gossip. What I mean by that is, oh, girl, did you hear that this person did this, or this person said this, or this person said this about you? Oh my God, yeah, can you believe it? And then they trauma bond over gossiping about somebody else. Or they trauma bond over, I'm going to tell you everything this person said about you. So then you become my best friend and we can hate them together. There's a reason why there is about 5 versions of Mean Girls. There's literally a new version of Mean Girls right now on frickin' Broadway or on television. I'm like, why do we need another Mean Girls? But there's a reason why. There's a reason why. A lot of times the currency in female friendships, I don't think it's a healthy currency, but it's still one, is gossip. So I think that Whitney was going to take everything that Heather ever said about Lisa, and that was going to be her currency to gain Lisa's friendship. That's why her mind was freaking blown when Lisa and Heather became close friends. She's like, wait a minute. I talked crap about Heather with you for so long. Wait a minute, Heather. I talked crap about Lisa with you for so long. Why are the two of you friends now and I'm the one who's left out? That has been what has been up Whitney's butt this entire season. That's why she was going so hard for Lisa. That's why she was going so hard for Heather, because she could not understand for the life of her how her little plan didn't work and how these two people who she intentionally tried to pit against each other were able to become friends. That is the real issue. She lost her mind at Mary's party because Lisa brought Heather like some gift or something like that. And because Heather had, and then remember, she chastised Lisa at her house. She didn't care about Lisa cussing or whatever. What pissed Whitney off was the fact that Heather had called Lisa when Lisa was at Whitney's house, and Lisa answered and they were having a fun kiki. That is what pissed Whitney off. Look at her face. When that scene happens, it tells you everything. And then the moment Lisa hangs up with Heather, all of a sudden Whitney starts berating Lisa with, my children are home and we don't talk like that in our house. We have boundaries. Do you understand, Lisa? Do you understand? We don't talk like, and Lisa was like, what? Like, I'm so confused. That's why Whitney's energy switched up. Whitney didn't care about Lisa swearing or whatever Lisa said. I can't remember what she said. She didn't care about that. Because remember, 99% of the times when somebody is arguing with you about something, it's not about that actual thing. It's about something else. Until you get to the real part of the conversation where you're like, oh, well, this is why you're really mad. You know, when it's like to your husband, take the trash out. You don't really care about the trash. You're pissed that he worked late and he missed dinner and you were lonely and you wanted your husband with you. But instead of saying, hey, babe, I really miss you. Can you maybe not work late so much? You tear him down for not taking out the trash. It's very similar to those types of projection conversations. So instead of Whitney saying to Lisa, hey, you know what? You came over to spend time with me and I'm feeling kind of insecure and I'm feeling some type of way about how close you and Heather are. And I just kind of wanted to let you know how I'm feeling. She's going to then give us the most annoying 5 minutes of the show where she is just berating Lisa about her boundaries and having her children in her home, and Lisa not saying whatever the hell Lisa said, which wasn't even that bad. That was so obvious. If you go back and watch that clip, you see it in her face. So to me, Lisa, watch her back with Whitney. And also, Lisa does not like Whitney, but Lisa actually likes Heather, in my opinion, and I'll tell you why. Because people always tell you exactly how they feel about you. They always do. If you're actually listening, you will always know how people feel about you. What has Lisa said about Whitney? She says, I'm a bulldog, or whatever it was. Was it a bulldog? Bulldog? Bulldozer? Something like that. Let's just say bulldog. She was like, I'm a bulldog, but I hold back when I talk to you. So right there, she's saying, I don't actually give you the real me. I just give you this little watered down version because I actually can't be bothered to deal with your BS. I don't want to hurt your little feelings because I don't want to be bothered with it. That's really what she's saying. And she was like, I hold back a lot. And there's a lot that I don't say just to maintain the friendship, Whitney. Right there, she is saying, I am surface with you because I don't actually want to deal with your crap. That's really what she's saying. But when she talks about Heather, she's like, wait a minute. That's why she got all pissed. She was like, Heather never invited me over to her house and Heather hasn't given me a chance and all this other stuff. And I love Heather and Lisa's friendship. It's the friendship that I needed that I didn't know I needed. I love them together. I think Heather and Lisa, they are a vibe. They're fun, all of that. And the reason why I think that the friendship between Lisa and Whitney doesn't really work and doesn't really make sense. And I don't care. They can say to their blue in their face, we're really friends. Whitney and I are, no, you're not. You're not really friends with her. Oh, and another reason why Lisa doesn't like Whitney. I can't believe I forgot about this. I'll get to the other side in a second. This is the core reason why Lisa will never really mess with Whitney. Don't forget season 2 or 3, whatever season it was, maybe 2, how hard Whitney was going against Lisa with the whole Angie Harrington situation, when Whitney was like, oh yeah, Angie Harrington is like now my like 20th cousin twice removed. And Whitney was really was butting up with Angie. And then Angie was like, oh, Lisa, you called the catering people to have them cancel on me. And Lisa's doing all this stuff to sabotage me because she's jealous of Angie K and all, or Angie Harrington and blah, 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 and all of that stuff. Lisa, I understand Lisa. And Lisa is the type of person, because I'm very similar to her. Once you show me who you are and you cross me a certain way, I will never actually ever be cool with you. We'll be able to be cordial, but we'll never be cool. And I think that is how Lisa is approaching Whitney. I don't think Lisa's forgotten everything Lisa did against her with Angie Harrington. I forgot Angie Harrington existed. But remember all that dirt Angie Harrington was doing trying to get on the show, trying to get her snowflake? Angie Harrington and her husband even, they pulled a Monica. They were the first Monica. Remember when they did Shaw's Exposed? That fake troll account to expose Jen Shaw and Lisa Barlow? Because that account was going after Lisa and Jen. They were the first reality Vonties. And then Jen found them out and called them out on the show. And Angie and her husband had to apologize. Remember all of that? And that was during the time when Whitney and Angie were like in cahoots. I don't think Lisa has forgotten that. But I do think that Lisa was strategic last season and she knew she needed people on her island. And so when Whitney was so thirsty and was so pick me to be on her island, she was like, fine, yeah, come be on my island over here, you know, because that's when Lisa and Meredith were beefing. And Heather and Lisa weren't friends. Lisa needed allies. So she was like, yeah, come on over, Whitney. But I don't think she ever forgot that, because who would forget something like that? Who would forget that? You know, and Lisa is very much like a lot of the housewives who are the HBICs, one word that they are so true to is loyalty. Any HBIC, loyalty is their number one thing. Think about Nene Leakes on Atlanta. It's all about loyalty. Cynthia, you need to be loyal to me against Kenya. Lisa Vanderpump on Beverly Hills. Kyle, you need to be loyal to me against like Elisa Renna. You know, I'm rewatching Ladies of London. You know, Caroline Stanbury. You know, Sophie, you need to be loyal to me against Juliet. Like the HBIC, their number one currency is loyalty. You need to be loyal to me. That's why Lisa hadn't been able to really let everything go with Meredith because she was like, you were disloyal to me. You turned on me. Loyalty is their number one currency when you are that girl. But I feel like Lisa has started to let a bit of that go. And we've talked about that in our reviews. I was like, I love Lisa. She's actually my favorite person on the show. But I say it like I see it. And I was like, she's getting to be a little bit too heavy, a little bit too dark, because she wasn't able to let sort of these friendship disloyalties, traumas, betrayals go. And so she kept going at it, particularly with like the Meredith thing, where it became like, you're losing your shine because you're giving so much of your energy to things that you would be much lighter if you kind of let them go. Doesn't mean you forget what the person did. Doesn't mean that you trust them the same exact way. But it means that if holding on to something diminishes your shine, you're only hurting yourself. So I feel like Lisa has started to let some of that go. And I feel like she's kind of back in that HIB status, like, HBIC status where, her and Meredith are tag teaming Angie. They're tag teaming Monica. Her and Heather are like, going at it together as a united front against Monica and that stuff. And that's the version of Lisa I love to see, that sort of empowered, I'm very important to God. I'm sipping on my Diet Coke. I'm eating my Kit Kats. And what? Like, that's the energy I love. I think sometimes when we let this stuff, as if I'm on the show, but like when we let this stuff sort of steal our joy and we're unable to kind of let some stuff go, that's when it gets to becoming Housewives, where it's like, when Nene had a very dark season, stuff like that, that can sort of bring them down. So to anybody listening, again, if somebody has done you wrong, letting it go doesn't absolve them of their accountability, but it frees you from dimming your own light because you're holding on to some type of darkness. So forgive and let go for yourself. Don't ever forget, but you can forgive, So that's where I stand on that. And I'm looking for closure on the Jax mission conversation that's coming up. Like, I'm done with the conversation with Jax being on a mission. I personally, again, I love Lisa, but I did think that storyline was kind of beaten to death. Very similar to how I feel about Garcelle in Beverly Hills. I love Garcelle as a mother. I love Lisa as a mother. I love showing the children, sure. But they show their kids a little bit too much. Like, the majority of your storyline cannot be you hanging out with your kids. You know what I mean? So I felt the same way about Garcelle. She had so many scenes with her kids where I was like, honestly, the majority of these scenes should have either been with another housewife or with your good girlfriends or with your husband or with a date, not your children. That's the same way I felt about Lisa on Salt Lake City. I didn't need 25 scenes about Jack's mission. I needed one scene, tops. So we need to just go ahead and wrap that up. We need to just go ahead and wrap that up. So yeah, you know what I mean? I love them as mothers. I love their children, but I'm not watching this show for a parenting show. I'm not. It's just how I feel. All right. So, oh, that's right. And then don't forget, Lisa brought up again on the reunion, she goes, I don't care if she's jealous and mad. I can be upset about whatever I want to be upset about. Don't get a knockoff of my ring and wear it to BravoCon. Clearly obsessed. So we talked about this because we were like, is this the same ring of Lisa's ring? And people were like, no, it's not the same one, but it is a good knockoff. Monica said she got it from Amazon for about $50. So you're so pressed about Lisa. You're so triggered by her affluence. But then you go find an Amazon knockoff and then you rock it. Girl, you're proving Lisa's point. You're thirsty. You're obsessed. Move on. Let it go. Boo-boo. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about Angie. Miss Angie. Okay, so Angie finally found her voice because it's the reunion. And like a lot of filler housewives, I'm looking at you, Cynthia. I'm looking at you, Uba. I'm looking at you, other filler housewives. They show up and they show at the reunion to save their spots. And it's like, where was this energy? Where was this attitude? Where was this shade during the last 15 episodes, sweetheart. Where was this Angie? Where were you hiding out? I'm confused. But she's found her voice and I'm here for it. She finally grew on me literally the last 1 to 2 episodes of the season was when I was like, oh, okay, I like Angie. Because prior to that, I was like, why is she here? She's tofu. What is going on? But she did grow on me at the very end. And if she keeps this energy, if they bring her back either full-time or a friend of, if she keeps reunion energy, then I'm here for it. Because I do like Angie. I do think I like her. I like her. She grew up. Definitely grew on me, but she needs to keep this energy. Like when you actually have a point of view, that is what makes somebody interesting. It's not about the yelling. It's not about the cussing out. It's not about the dramatics of it. But when somebody actually has a point of view, and what I mean by point of view is when you have an actual opinion or stance on something or someone, that to me is what makes a person interesting. Is when somebody actually has a point of view and you're like, this is what I think, this is why I think it, and this is what it is. Doesn't mean you don't listen, doesn't mean you don't have conversations and discuss things. But when you come with a particular, like, for example, me, my point of view is very clear about all of this. So I think it's really, I love it when a person has a point of view about something. When you think about all of the, not just housewives, but like hosts on TV shows or, you know, all of that stuff, what makes them so engaging is that they have a very particular point of view about something. Doesn't mean that they're biased. It doesn't mean that they have favorites. It means that they have an opinion about something and they're not afraid to share it. And then they can have a discussion. That's what made Wendy Williams so brilliant and amazing. She had a very clear perspective and point of view about every single person and every single topic that she covered. You know, when she would do hot topics, she would give you the facts and then she would be like, okay, now we're going to say it like we mean it. This is what I think. That is what a point of view is. What do you think? And so I loved that she finally had a freaking point of view that was her own and that wasn't force-fed to her by Monica. Because she was Monica's pawn during the entire season against Lisa and Meredith. We already had that conspiracy theory and that got confirmed. Angie was shaken in her boots when Lisa checked her about lying and being two-faced with Monica. She was shaken all the way in her boots about that, right? And I loved how she said to Monica, you backstabbed me right in my face. Because that's the thing. Angie had Monica's back. She believed Monica. She didn't squeal to Lisa when Monica told her that Meredith never told her any rumor about her. And she had Lisa and Meredith beefing because Angie didn't tell the truth about what Monica said. You know what I mean? So there was all that. So Angie, you keep that energy, then we can keep you. But if you go back to being a non-factor, there's no need, sweetheart. Oh, this is my thoughts on why Monica hates Angie. So we all know Monica is just a jealous person in general. That's a blanket understanding, right? We get that. But the reason why I think she hates Angie in particular, in her own mother words, you have beef with her, is this. One, Angie looks like Kim Kardashian, doesn't she? And I think that we've already laid out the case for how obsessed Monica is with Kim Kardashian. She literally wants to be her. I think there is a little bit of rivalry with the fact that Angie kind of looks like Kim K. I think the fact that Angie is happily married, regardless of whatever rumors Monica wanted to say about her marriage and her husband, I think the fact that Angie looks like Kim Kardashian. She's married. She has money. She has businesses. She has a position in society, of the Utah society, which is very clear she does. Within the Greek society, within the Mormon society, Angie has a position within that societal world that Monica clearly doesn't. So I think all of that, coupled with the biggest factor, is I think that Monica in her weird head thinks that Angie holds the position that Monica thinks she should hold. Because last season, Angie was a friend of, right? She was like a heavily featured friend of. Was she full-time or a friend of? One of the two. Again, it's Angie. Who the hell knows? She could have been full-time and I just thought she was a friend. She could have been a friend. I thought she was an extra. Who knows? Anyway, but Angie held position. That's why she has a snowflake now. And I think that Monica probably felt like, just like Monica said to her, you bench warming B. That right there tells you exactly what Monica thinks about Angie. And I think that Monica looks at Angie and was like, you held the position that I should have had. Because again, timelines, receipts, timeline of it all. After season 1, Monica seeks out Jen Shah. Angie comes onto the scene a little bit in season 2, heavily in season 3. So for all of those 2 years, Monica is, scraping along as Jen Shah's unpaid assistant. So I think in Monica, very similar to Beverly Hills, where how Kyle thought that Crystal's position should have gone to Teddy. And then we see Kyle gunning for Crystal all the time. And you're like, why do you have such a bone to pick with Crystal, Kyle? What did Crystal ever do to you? Again, because in their minds, they're thinking about seats at the table. There are only so many seats at the table. And if this person has a seat at the table, it means I don't have a seat, or it means my number one ally doesn't have a seat. That's why I think Kyle had Anne-Marie come on and be her little mouthpiece to go against Crystal, because Kyle is holding on to the fact that in her mind, she thinks Crystal has the position that I wanted my little minion Teddy to have. I think it's very similar to why Monica has such a beef with Angie, because we talked about this for the entire season. I said, why does Monica hate Angie so much? Because at the end of the day, literally the only person who truly said anything about Angie was Monica. All of the rumors about Angie's husband, his sexuality, cheating or not cheating, Greek mafia, owing the IRS, fraudulent businesses. Again, is this stuff true? Probably not. Who knows? It's like garbage at this point. But the only reason why we even have those talking points and rumors is because Monica said them privately and publicly on camera. And that's why I kept saying, what does Monica have against Angie? And we were like, is Monica working with Jen and Jen's coming after Angie because Angie turned on her last season? Is that what's going on? Like, why? I don't think that. I just think that the simplest thing makes the most sense. I think that Monica thought Angie got the spot I should have had, and she's resentful towards her. And that's why she kept doing all of that stuff. Because if you really think about it, the majority of Monica's situation on the show, whatever you want to call it, revolved around Angie. And then by proxy revolved around Angie versus Meredith. And then Lisa versus Meredith. But at the core of it all, the true core of it all, was when Monica on camera said the rumor about Angie and her husband. That's what really popped everything all the way off. If Monica had never said that, we wouldn't have gotten a lot of the other trajectory stuff on the show. And that's what Heather meant by at the beginning of the reunion, where she was like, I was happy that Jen Shah was off of the show because we wanted to show a different side of ourselves, not the toxicness, not all of that stuff. We wanted to have fun. We wanted to show our friendships. And basically what I took that as, she was pissed at Monica for hijacking the show, because that's how I felt. There's Monica stans are like, Monica was the show. She was season 4. There would be no show without Monica. I don't think so. I agree with Heather. Like I've said multiple times, I don't think Monica was the show. I think Monica hijacked the show. And those are two different things. I think we still would have had a really great season 4 without Monica. The difference is you can't compare because Monica was there. So you can't say Monica was the show. First of all, the show existed before there was a Monica. They got a 4th season without a Monica. So Monica wasn't the show. Monica joined a show that was already on air and production. She wasn't even an OG. She came in the 4th season. And we don't know what season 4 would have looked like without her. Maybe in a parallel universe, out there will know if she wasn't cast on the show. I think she hijacked the show. And her hijacking the show is what got her exposed as reality Von Teese. Because had she just came and played, not even played nice, but just came and played instead of hijacking it, I don't think Heather would have been onto her the way Heather was onto her. You know? So that's where I kind of land on there. Oof. So yeah, that is my thoughts on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City Season 4 Reunion Part 1. That are my thoughts. So as always, I want to know what you guys think. Put it down below. Are we looking forward to Part 2? What do you think is going to happen in Part 3? Whose side are you on? Put it down below. And always be sure to like, subscribe, and share. So with that, I have a couple more stories for you guys if you want. You know what I want?